Good morning, everyone. Last week we were studying about the Titanic, and as you remember, the Titanic was the world's biggest, best ocean liner, according to 1912 standards, when it set sail from Southampton, England. The ship had three class levels. You had first class, second class, and third class. First class had the best accommodations. Third class had the worst accommodations, but they still weren't terrible because it was an ocean liner. But first class had a heated swimming pool. They had elevators. They had a gymnasium. They had the finest restaurants, and they were treated better than anybody else on board the ship. But this ship was touted as being unsinkable. And that's why so many people wanted to be on the maiden voyage of the Titanic. So it set sail from Southampton, England, made a stop in Cherbourg, France to pick up more passengers. Then it stopped in Queenstown, Ireland, and picked up a few more passengers before it then set sail towards New York City. Now, at the time that it was sailing, it was right at the end of winter, beginning of spring, but they were going through the northern Atlantic. And the northern Atlantic, there are icebergs, and they are still around very heavily in March and April. And they knew that icebergs were a possibility, so they had people who were in a lookout, and they were supposed to be the ones watching for icebergs. However, icebergs can sneak up on you, especially if you don't have binoculars, which the um, people did not have in the crow's nest of the Titanic. You can have like a mirage on the horizon where you won't see the iceberg until it's too late. And that's what happened with the Titanic. Now, there were 2,200 people on board the Titanic. This included the crew, because you had to have a lot of crew members for an ocean liner. Of the 2,200 people that were on board the Titanic, only 750 of these survived, and they were mostly women and children because under maritime law, women and children are first to get off of a sinking ship. The Titanic remains at the bottom of the North Atlantic. It is considered by many to be a graveyard because of all the people that died on board the ship. And there were approximately 1,517 people who did not make it from this disaster. The U.S. government, France, and England are trying to have this declared a graveyard of the sea so that nobody can mess with it. The last survivor of the Titanic died in 2009 at the age of 97. She had been 2 months old when she was on board the ship. The White Star Line, which operated the Titanic, ran into some problems in 1934 because of the Great Depression, and they were bought out by their rival, the Cunard Line. Cunard Line still operates to this day. It has an ocean liner called the Queen Mary 2. And if I am not mistaken, that is the only ocean liner in the world that is still operating. It's different than a cruise ship. There are tons of cruise ships, but they're not the same as an ocean liner. And just think about how you would have felt, especially in 1912. They're getting on this massive ship that is supposed to be like the greatest ship ever made, and then you're on board the ship, and then somebody tells you, "Oh, this ship is sinking," and you have to get off the ship. If you're lucky, you're going to get off the ship. So just imagine what that probably felt like for people who did get off the ship, realizing that so many people did not get off the ship. And we will be going over this week, one of the um, finding the ship after so many years because for so many years, people didn't know where exactly the ship was because when the ship sank with the strong ocean currents there, it kind of drifted a little bit from the point where it actually went down. So it was found in 1985, and so we're going to read about the efforts to find the ship, and then what do you do now that you found the ship? And the ship it sails since it's made of steel and there's bacteria in the depths of the ocean that likes to eat metal. The ship is slowly deteriorating. So possibly by the year 2030, the ship won't actually be there anymore. It will have disintegrated completely. So let's just think about that while we are looking at our stuff for this week on finding the Titanic.